Thank you for joining us for a webinar today with VoIP Supply and Patton. During the webinar, please use the Q&A feature located in the bottom right corner of your screen. We will answer the questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. Just to give you a little background about VoIP Supply, some of our programs. We do offer hardware and provisioning. We feature over 60 manufacturers that offer over about 16,000 products that we sell and can do provisioning and setup for you. Also have a rental program. Our device as service rental program gives the customers the wide variety of VoIP products for a low monthly payment. Do a lot of large deals with that. That's a great program. Our CloudSpan Marketplace, a single place to shop for various VoIP service providers. You can build up your monthly recurring revenue and receive discounts and spiffs on hardware and services selling through VoIP Supply. The fulfillment goes along with the provisioning, so not only can we provision the products, we can ship them directly to your customers blind for you, put in any kind of collateral or labels, stickers, anything you want in the boxes or the actual devices themselves. So that's a real good program as well with the provisioning. Refresh and reclaim. We do certified reconditioning processes in-house. We rebox them. We sell them as like new. Great offering for customers that are a little bit of a budget. So that's some notes and some programs about VoIP Supply. I'm now going to turn it over to Bert at Patton, who's going to go through the Patton hardware presentation. Thank you.
All right, I'll jump right into it. I'm going to give you a really quick introduction to Patton, talk a little bit about our VoIP product range, then focus on the subject of today, which is the high density analog gateway. I'm going to talk about some other things around that, some related technologies and some enabling things that we offer there. Talk a little bit about the specific use cases that the high density gateway addresses. And then we'll talk a bit about the availability of the product, and then we will take your questions. This slide is actually a little bit wrong. We're 36.5 years old. The company was started in 1984. We design, develop, and manufacture our own products here in Maryland, USA. That gives us the unique ability to control the quality and support the customers, because every aspect of the product is under our control. And it's our mission, and really it's our passion to support service providers, value-added resellers, and system integrators as they're transitioning to all IP and enabling unified communication. So what do we do in VoIP? The two major product lines that we have in the VoIP business is voice over IP gateways. You guys probably know what those are. They integrate IP and TDM and allow you to connect, say, TDM trunks or legacy trunks, analog trunks, to IP-based communication systems, and similarly allow you to connect legacy endpoints or devices also to SIP networks. We support all the telephony interfaces, including analog, FXS and FXO, ISDN, T1, E1, and PRI telephony interfaces. From an analog perspective, we scale from a single port, and now with the new device, we scale all the way up to 128 ports of analog. We also support ISDN BRI from 1 to 8 ports. And in the case of T1, we support from a single fractional T1 all the way up to 1024. The T1 products divide into two categories. We have a CPE product that we call the SN1K series. Those CPE products go from a single fractional T1 all the way up to 4 T1s. And then we have our interconnect product line, which is suitable for very large enterprise customers or for large telecom service providers, where we are delivering interconnect functionality between providers and doing the full SS7 signaling stack for legacy core network integration. Those devices also support DS3s and STEM1 type interfaces, and go all the way up to more than 32,000 simultaneous VoIP or fax call capacities. We also deal in enterprise session border controllers. Enterprise session border controllers really are a service demarcation that creates a border between the customer's local area network and the provider's network. Most of the provider networks that we're dealing with, there's two providers involved. You have the broadband access provider, or providers in the case of a multi-WAN access type service, as well as an over-the-top service provider. More and more telephony is an over-the-top service that's delivered by a third-party provider, and not the same provider as are delivering the broadband connections themselves. The enterprise session border controller is doing a lot of things. It's mostly about security and quality. We're doing topology hiding so that the IP-PBX is protected from being seen by the wide area network or the internet. We're doing end-to-end quality service. And the devices are really what I call converged voice and data security appliances. The products do have a full stateful inspection firewall, but then we're also doing the telephony specific security regimes such as TLS and SRTP. And the devices as well are providing edge router functionality. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. One of the distinctives of the Patton product line is that we do have a wide variety of different purpose-built hardware platforms that have different mixes of interfaces, which I'll show you in a minute. And all of these hardware devices have an in common embedded software that we call Trinity. And so what that allows us to do is it allows units to be either just a VoIP gateway, like a regular ATA or T1 gateway, or they can be a gateway now and then an SBC tomorrow. So for example, if you're currently on an analog trunk connecting to an on-premise IP-PBX, and 6 months from now you want to convert that trunk to a SIP trunk, and now you want the device to be an SBC, it's literally just a matter of putting the right license into that box, and we can transform its function. It can also be just a gateway. It could be a gateway and a session border controller at the same time. So you can have a SIP trunk coming into an enterprise and then use the telephony interfaces on that device to connect to fax machines or analog phones or other legacy endpoints. So in terms of interfaces, we talked already a bit about the right-hand side of this picture, where with regard to the telephony interfaces, with regard to northbound interfaces, we support wireless broadband connectivity through 3G, 4G by the addition of wireless broadband modems. We have native DSL terminations that includes ADSL, VDSL, and G.sh DSL. Of course, we have native fast Ethernet and gigabit Ethernet interfaces. We have SFPs, so that if you're doing, for example, fiber to the premise, you can terminate that fiber, that single mode fiber or that multi-mode fiber directly onto our device without introducing another box. And then we have some products that also support legacy synchronous interfaces, which are, the old days of CSU DSUs, T1 CSU DSUs, for example. They delivered these data interfaces off of those T1s, and we can also terminate those in the Patton CPE. Kind of our product concept here, I talked about the that we have this off-the-shelf hardware, and that the software can licenses can transform what it does. We've also taken that embedded software environment and now virtualized it. And one of the things I'm going to talk about is the virtual SmartNode, which is a no hardware, software only virtualized solution. But I'll get into the details of that a little bit later. We are perpetually developing the software. We do a software release about every 2 months. We're perpetually doing enhancements to the software as we run into different use cases out in the field, and customers want the product to do something a little bit different or perform in a little bit different way. We make those enhancements and adaptations. For example, when Microsoft came out with Microsoft Teams, there's this thing called direct routing, and we were able to do the software updates. That's, again, one of the benefits of designing, developing, and manufacturing the products in-house. So we recognize that our products are not the entirety of a solution. We are part of the solution that in this space. And so we do have a very wide and broad ecosystem. I think most of you are probably going to be familiar with 3CX. We find that to be an intersection with the VoIP channels. But we do interoperability with just about every PBX, TDM, legacy TDM PBX, or modern day IP PBX, or soft switch, or cloud PBX. Everything from the very small guys that you've never heard of to the household names from the big Fortune 1000 type companies. So talking a little bit about the analog gateway portfolio, this is what a typical installation looks like. You have a SIP trunk coming into an enterprise. It's connected to a SmartNode. And then if you're thinking about just a gateway, then we're connecting to fax machines and analog phones and that type of thing. One of the things that I'm going to talk about a little bit today is the Patton Cloud. So now the Patton Cloud, there's a secure tunnel that we create between the device that's on premise or the virtual device to the Patton Cloud, which is an edge orchestration service. It provides all kinds of really, really cool functionality that I will get into in a minute. But we don't just connect analog phones, we also connect to SIP phones on premise, and those SIP phones can be registered with the SmartNode, as well as registered with the cloud PBX or the local PBX. And that is important for doing things like survivability, and I'm not going to talk about survivability because it's not the subject of this webinar. Now, one of the things I want to point out is that we've done a few things on these products of late. One of them is creating a ruggedized version of the product. We find more and more that we're connecting to telephones that are not, well, what you would normally think of as a telephone. There is all of these security type appliances that are installed. One of the examples would be going into a parking garage. When you go into a parking garage, there's a parking garage gate there, and if something happens with your ticket, you lose your ticket or your ticket doesn't work, you can talk to somebody and they'll let you in or out. But you got to push that little button, and embedded into that gate there is a speaker and a microphone, and that's actually an analog telephone. And those devices all need to be adapted now to SIP, because VoIP is a mature technology. Similarly, you find call boxes. Go to the airport, park your car, and usually on a pole right there by the bus stop, the long-term parking lot, there's an SOS box. That way, when you come back from a business trip, if your battery is dead or you got a flat tire, you can pick up that box and they'll send a maintenance crew out to help you. Building entrance, somebody buzzing you into a secure facility, you can also use one of those call boxes. We're also finding these. There are life safety phones that are installed actually by law in subways. About every 200 yards, there's an emergency call box. That's because you can't get a cell phone signal usually down in a subway. And if something happens to the train and people have to evacuate, there has to be a way for those people to be able to reach emergency services. There's also maintenance crews down there and things like that that occasionally need to use those call boxes. But we just find them all over the place. There's a huge market. And so one of the other enhancements that we've done to the product line is not just ruggedization, but adding long-haul analog interfaces. So this particular product that you're looking at, you can have an analog span, you can have a wire span that's 6.2 miles long, and you can still reach out to that analog device and bring that into your SIP environment. You can imagine in transportation and energy and some of these other applications I've talked about, distance can be a really important factor and selling point, unique selling proposition. So now I want to talk a little bit about the Patton Cloud. I think this is an important backdrop before we get into the high density gateway. The Patton Cloud is a very, very powerful edge orchestration solution that brings management, customer service, provisioning, enhanced call quality, and integration into VoIP networks. I'm sorry about this slide with all of these words. I don't expect you to read it. This is not a Patton Cloud webinar, but I want to cover the highlights, and so I put these bullets here as just kind of to be a cue for me to talk through. So, so basically, the Patton Cloud is, it's on the web. You go to patton.io. You get a subscription. You can log into that IO, and then you have an organization set up in the Patton Cloud. And once you get set up, you go in, and the first thing you see is a dashboard, and that dashboard gives you an overview of all of the devices that you've connected into your instance of the Patton Cloud, and it shows you the geographic location on maps of where those connected devices are. It gives you a summary of what software revision is running on what devices, and you can then, there's visual aids that lets you look at, navigate to different areas. One of the things that you can do is if you can have 100 devices, you can have 1,000 devices connected to to the Patton Cloud, and you can then access any one of those devices, go into the CLI terminal of any of those devices, or if you prefer the web GUI, you can go into the web GUI and look at the configurations. Patton Cloud also does automated provisioning. It can do it a couple of different ways. One of the things it can do is a redirect service, where if you already have your own server set up to do automated provisioning, where you're pushing configurations to SIP phones that get plugged into your customer networks, well, when you put a Patton device on premise, that device will phone home, so to speak, and then we'll recognize that that device belongs to you, and then we will tell that device to go to this server location to get its configuration. But then you can also natively push the provisioning configuration out to that device. And if you're in a split configuration domain where it's a completely self-service install by your customer, and there's some information that they need to answer, they need to tell you some local IP addresses or something, well, then we can deliver to them a wizard. They can answer the wizard question, and then the remainder of the configuration gets automatically built and provisioned into the device. You can you can do call history. All the call detail records are there, and and those call histories include quality metrics. So you can look at packet loss, jitter, latency, MOS scores, and those calls are detailed on a call-by-call basis as being good, okay, being good, moderate, or poor. And then you can drill down into the specific, every aspect of the call setup and the RTP streams or whatever to find out where and when and how the call went bad. You can also do packet capture. You can turn on packet capture from the cloud on any device. You can capture packets from a single port. You can capture packets for everything that's going through the device. You can just look at the packet headers, or you can look at everything. And then you can run Wireshark traces, and you never have to go out into the field or have somebody do a team viewer session or something. It's all automatic. So that's just a quick overview. One of the things I want to do after this is when we send the follow-up to this webinar, I'm going to send some short, we've got some 4 to 6 minute Patton Academy videos, which are like training videos. But if you guys could look at those, I think that you'll start to see just how powerful this Patton Cloud is. And yeah, I didn't talk about alerting and alarming, but I'll bring that up in a hotel use case when I get there. So basically what we've done here is, you know, we saw the market, and we see that there's people out there that have, you know, high density gateways that start at 72. We see people that have 24. So we wanted to come up with a granularity of different densities, so that no matter where you go to install this this device, you know, you don't have to overbuy. You know, if you buy a big box that's got too many ports on it, then you're paying too much. If you know, if you need 64 ports, you could go buy, you know, you can buy 2 32s, but then that's 2 boxes. That's also an expense. We've created these devices also with dual redundant power supply for high availability applications. We've also enhanced these with the K21 style analog lease line surge protection. One of the reasons why this is important is because when you're installing these devices on long spans of copper wire to support far off analog devices, those lines tend to be more susceptible to ground loops and to nearby lightning strikes. And if they're installed in more industrial type environments, you know, motors going on and off, lights going on and off, all of that can introduce surges onto those lines. So we have link redundancy and survivability, notification and alerting, which I'll talk about on the hotel use case as part of the Patton Cloud, and a software upgrade path. So the basic idea here is, you know, right sized, you get the right number of ports that you need at the right location, so you don't have to stack up a whole bunch of different things. And again, because it's a gateway and it's a session border controller and all these other things, you can eliminate duplicating boxes throughout a network. So where is this kind of a gateway needed? Where is it used? Where's the market? Well, one of the biggest ones is in hospitalities. You know, these hotels, whether they're small, medium, or large, some of these resorts actually can get massive. I'm talking to a service provider right now who is going to be converting analog phones at a single resort where there's 3,000 rooms. So you know, the idea here is that you know, these hotels are also, you know, keeping up with technology and moving to SIP and doing unified communications and adopting the new technology, but they still have those guest room phones, and those guest room phones, although hardly ever used, it's a critical part of the infrastructure, particularly for life safety reasons. You know, people use them for wake-up calls. They use them to order, you know, food service or room service, or to talk to the concierge, because it's just convenient and easy. But the hotel is using the phone to deliver messages, including emergency alert messages to hotels and to the hotel guests. And so, you know, a lot of these systems have these push notifications that'll ring the room and say, hey, this is, something's going on, or the pool is closed, or whatever the notification is. And so one of the features that we developed, well, we didn't develop one, we developed 3 features, because all of these hotel phones have this little red light on them that is a message waiting indicator. It means that somebody either left you a message, or the hotel has a broadcast message that they want you to listen to, and you can go into the room, you see that light flash, and you pick up the phone, and you can hear the message. There are 3 different protocols to do message waiting indication, and we have introduced all of them. Actually, before I move on, I wanted to talk about alerting and alarming. It's really important, because the hotel needs to be in touch with the guest at all time, and be able to do even mass notifications, and because the hotel has liabilities associated with 911 services. Somebody has to be, if somebody's in that room and they start to have a heart attack or something, they must be able to pick up that phone. They must be able to call 911. That 911 must get priority call handling. So we've done the priority call handling feature. But one of the things the Patton Cloud is used for is alerting and alarming. And one of the things we can do is alert and alarm on whether or not an analog, a phone is connected to one of these analog ports. So if somebody's in a hotel room and maybe there's a scuffle going on, and the phone gets ripped out of the wall, the hotel needs to know about that. Or if a guest just is not feeling well, and they decide they don't want to be disturbed, and they don't want to be called by anybody, they can unplug that phone from the wall. Well, the hotel doesn't want either of those scenarios, so they need to know if that phone's been unplugged. So very simple to set up an alert in the Patton Cloud. And when you set that alert up in the Patton Cloud, it can go out. You can send an SMS message to the hotel staff. You can send an email. You can even do an API integration into the hotel management system, so that whatever devices the hotel staff are using, they can receive alerts that says there's something wrong with the phone in room 234. Service providers are also, believe it or not, a big market, and as you know, the most of the incumbent Ma Bell type large service providers, the Verizons and the AT&Ts of the world, are ending. They want to dismantle those local exchanges that are delivering analog services to their customers, and and modernize their network. So they're sending service terminations to their subscribers, and so this is really an opportunity, because if you look particularly at an apartment building, anything that's a multi-dwelling unit or a multi-tenant unit, similar to a hotel but not really a hotel. Any one of you guys that are in the that are in the VoIP business selling SIP trunks, you can deliver a SIP trunk to that apartment and make a deal with the property manager or the property owner, and deliver analog phone services to all of those buildings. And again, E911 and all that stuff that does come into consideration. Okay. So yeah, this is just another look at it, that when you put our box in, what is going on in that multi-tenant unit or multi-dwelling unit. Nothing changes. Whatever it was before, it is now. You've got the structured wiring going through the building to all of those rooms, and those rooms are outfitted with RJ11 jacks. That stuff is backhauled to a wiring closet somewhere. You stick our box in the wiring closet, you bring your SIP trunk, you're done. No change to what's going on in the building itself. And then, of course, there is campus environments. We use the word, it's not just a college campus or a university. This is also suitable for military bases, anywhere where you have large sprawling facilities, where you have lots and lots of existing copper infrastructure that is supporting various telephony applications. And when I say various, I mean various. I mean, we're our device is being used to connect to, of course, like dorm room phones, or but it's also being connected to these blue pole emergency notification systems, which are, it's like a call box, but it also has an annunciator system so that they can flash a blue light and speakers come on, and emergency notifications can be issued all over the campus to say whatever, there's an active shooter. There's also panic boxes and things like that in classrooms for similar reasons that have push-to-talk type interfaces on them. And so the campus is another big market opportunity for this device. And again, security phones. This is a particular picture of I think this is the front end of a nuclear power plant, where it's gated and they have guardhouses, and those guardhouses have comms in them. And of course, similar type of campus or large sprawling facilities is hospitals. And again, non-traditional telephones. Mostly what we're doing with this product in the hospital situation is nurse call systems. I mean, all of these rooms are, you've got a little box usually hanging on your hospital bed that has a speaker and a microphone in it. You can push that and you can talk to the nurse's station. And all those nurses' stations are now becoming SIP integrated, and the installed base of all of those nurse call terminals need to be adapted for SIP interoperability. And then, of course, industry. I already talked a little bit about the transportation application, but you would be amazed where you will find analog call boxes. It's in mining locations. We're doing projects at silver mines in South Africa, where again they have life safety communications gear way underground. They backhaul that analog up to the surface and now interconnected with the VoIP facilities. You also see the things out on oil platforms and in refineries, places like that. So the industrial market opportunity actually for high density gateways is pretty wide. And again, ruggedization options for high temperature. We don't have that available in this product right now, but that is in the works. So a quick look at what the specs are on this device. You have multiple options for how you want to connect the analog ports. We have either front-facing RJ11s, or we have an RJ21 50-pin telco, which actually mounts in the back. It comes with 2 gigabit Ethernet ports. It comes with a console port and a USB port. And again, the USB port can be connected to a wireless broadband modem and support survivability from a wired to a wireless broadband connection. We support all of their typical codecs. We're supporting the SIP TLS and SRTP for the voice security. We are able to do local mixing of the calls. So if you have a local 3-way call, which is kind of common actually in a hospitality environment where connecting rooms together can be done quite easily. Already talked about the long reach, the message waiting indicator, the surge protection. This does support IPv4 and IPv6 dual stack. So it can be either one. And We also have routing capabilities as a software upgrade path, including all the business class routing functionalities. So on the other end of the spectrum, this is something that we also launched earlier this year. This is our new low-cost, small analog gateway that does 1, 2, or 4 ports. And just want to highlight that we still have this. There are different schools of thought. Some people want to put the adapter out near the endpoint where, you know, because if they've got Ethernet going out to that endpoint, they can do it. Some people want to centralize that and continue to use the analog wiring. So this is just a notable mention here. So again, the portfolio now, you know, we go from a single analog port in a really, really tiny box. You know, we got the middle range, which will do 2, 4, or 8 analog ports. And now we scale all the way up to the 128 ports. And again, not just a gateway, it can be a gateway router, it can be an ESPC. Okay, so looking at the, you know, similarly our ESPC portfolio, and I know this isn't the subject of the webinar, but just want to quickly touch on this, that we have similar scalability, purpose-built appliances that'll do all IP or, you know, IP with gateway functionality. So we go from as small as 4 simultaneous SIP sessions now up to many, many thousands using the virtual SmartNode, which is the software-only solution. And again, what is the virtual SmartNode? It's software that'll run on any hypervisor. I just put a customer up on Azure, and it can be your firewall, it can be your edge router, it's your SIP SPC, it's your VPN aggregator, and it's your quality of service appliance, and it is cloud connected. So all those powerful Patton Cloud features that I mentioned earlier, you get included in the virtual SmartNode, and it's a total software solution. I wanted to mention this real quick. This is the, you know, this is kind of how it works. I already, you know, the virtual SmartNode is sitting on a hypervisor. It's connected to the provider, the over-the-top provider. It's connected to the Patton Cloud, and then through what other interfaces it's connected to all of the industry or all of the enterprise network elements. The killer app for your type of guys is SIP trunk aggregation. Most of you guys have customers and you're selling SIP trunks to go along with enterprise on-premise PBX products. And you're white labeling somebody else's SIP trunk service. And so, you know, if you've got 10 customers, you're reselling 10 SIP trunks. Well, which means that, you know, if you're an agent, it's okay. Your white label provider sends a bill to your customer, and you get your piece of the action after the fact, or you're getting a bill from your upstream SIP trunk provider, and then you're rebilling your customer. So what the virtual SmartNode lets you do is become really a provider in your own right. And in this scenario, we call it SIP trunk aggregation or SIP trunk consolidation, where you use the virtual SmartNode, and you only have one SIP trunk coming from your upstream service provider. Maybe you get a SIP trunk that's supporting, you know, 1,500 SIP sessions, and then you use the virtual SmartNode and deliver out to each one of your individual subscribers their own SIP trunk. So what does that mean? That means your costs are less, because getting one SIP trunk that supports 1,500 SIP sessions is way less than getting, you know, 500 SIP trunks doing 20 or 30 sessions each. So you make more money, and you get one bill from your upstream provider, and then you bill all of your customers. So it also gives you more control. And again, it's a very low cost, cloud connected, cloud powered solution. All right, so one of the other highlights is our Skype for Business and Teams interoperability. We have this guide that we've come out with, just noting that that is available for you to look at. because we believe that Teams is going to be have a pretty big impact on the market. You can get the virtual SmartNode free trial for 90 days. Just go to our website. You can go to the virtual SmartNode microsite, click on it to request your free trial. So on the high density analog gateway, where do we sit in terms of readiness? Right now, the RJ11 version of the units that do 16, 24, or 32 analog ports, we're taking orders. We've been taking orders actually for a while. We're shipping that now. The lead time it's new and we're ramping up, so it's not a 2-day lead time. Might take a couple of weeks, but we are shipping now. The RJ21 or the 50-pin telco version of that, we're taking orders now and we're starting shipments at the end of August. And for the 48 and 128 port, most of those are going to be sold with RJ21s, but we still have both versions available. Again, we're taking orders for that now, and we're starting to ship those products in September. So get ready and start pushing. And we are running a special promo for those that registered for this webinar through VoIP Supply on the high density analog gateway. You get 20% off your normal price. That is on the 24 port version. That's the one we have the most supply of. And you can get that discount as long as VoIP Supply's initial inventory position that they've taken runs out. So it is while supplies last. There's limited supplies available. So what we're trying to do here is facilitate as many trials, tests, or early adoptions that we can. 24 port is a very popular configuration, but it's suitable. It's the same platform. So if you test the 24, it's going to work the same way as the 128. So if you've got a hotel or something that you're working on and you want to do a test, take advantage of this offer. And you can talk to your VoIP Supply rep. They're ready to take your call, standing by. And that's all for now. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Bert, I'm looking here. I don't see any just yet, but I'm sure some will pop through here. The high density gateways, we're really looking forward to those. Even the larger capacity ones, definitely going to be a nice solution for a lot of our reseller customers. Putting those in there too. I have a question for you. As far as the mix of FXO, FXS, is it pretty customizable from there? Like you're talking about going up to 128 ports. How customizable is that for the ports? So
right now, so we do have the 4324, a prior generation, if you will, of units that can support 16, 24, or 32 of either all FXS or all FXO. Okay. This new series, which is the cloud-powered series, the Trinity software series, the first out products that I'm talking about today are all FXS. And the use cases that we're addressing, I mean, FXS is certainly the priority product. I mean, I don't know, right. People use, I mean, FXO is for connecting to an analog trunk.
Right.
And, to connect to the telephone company through that analog trunk. The whole world is going SIP. The SIP trunks are coming, and so it's those endpoints that need to be adapted. Not the other way around. But we recognize that FXO, particularly as a survivability interface, is appropriate, and so we will be adding at some date in the future, and I can't tell you when. Sitting here, we will have these high density gateways with some analog FXO ports on them.
Okay. Yeah, I still see that once in a while. You get it definitely is trending more to the FXS with all the somebody that has all that built-in analog phone infrastructure. Want to tear it all out, so that makes a lot of sense. I just wondered if there was some FXO. You still get a few that have analog lines they want to keep. It happens, right. But yeah, it's probably more rare.
Yeah, and if they have analog lines they want to keep, I mean, as soon as you get up to 8 or 10 analog lines in a site or in a location, people are not using analog lines, they're using fractional T1s.
Right.
And so you could make the argument that high density FXO doesn't really make sense. Thank you again, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate your participation today. We'll send a follow-up email out if you want to get the recording. Thank you, everybody.